Hello, guys. Today, this is my first time going live, so sorry if I mess up, stutter, or whatever, because I'm not really used to going live. But one of the things I want to talk about is Brian Mitchell, and not many people know who Brian Mitchell is, and he's um he's an NFL player who played for Washington Redskins, and played for the Philadelphia Eagles. The position Brian played was it was more running back. And like he looked like a fullback, running back, but he played more running back. But Brian Mitchell didn't really play running back. Um, in the NFL, he did play running back in high school and college, but when it came to the NFL, he wasn't fit to be more, and he wasn't fit for the NFL running back per se because he wasn't really because just how he was. But he was, or he is, I should say, he is not was, he is one of the best kick returners of the 1990s. I know you got like Deion Sanders, who was really great, helped the Atlanta Falcons, 49ers, and all the other teams he was with. And no, you got what's his name? This You got Desmond Howard, who is the only to this day the only kick return or the only special teams player to win MVP, and he's one of the best in '96, which says some and not a lot, but says some. But I would have to say that doing not many people talk about Brian Mitchell because he wasn't he didn't win a Super Bowl, he didn't like do anything amazing, but what most people don't know actually is Brian Mitchell was led the league. I can't remember which year, but he led the league in I think it was punting yards, or yeah, I think punting yard with 600 yards, and he led the whole league in that, which I'm thinking is pretty good. And I think this is also the same year he helped the Redskins get back to the playoffs, get to the playoffs, which also helps. So, and the reason I say the reason I have looked up some of his stats, and if some of his stats are if his stats were right, because I have seen some on Pro Football Reference where some stats are not right, because I have seen some because I had to go through ESPN, NFL Network, and on a bunch of other ones just to make sure he's got the right stats. But sometimes Pro Football Reference does not always have the right information, but they have right information about 98% of the time, not always, but they have the right information about 98% of the time, which does help if you want to look up it and not go through NFL Network, ESPN, because it's just easier going there. Understandable. Anyways, I have looked some of Brian's stats and all-purpose yards. If you don't know what that means rushing, receiving, passing, kick returning, punt returning, any yards basically, catching the backfield, running forward, any yards basically. And what most people don't know is if if these stats are correct, which it is kind of hard to specify how much yards you get in the NFL, because it's really hard, because I mean back then, well, more 30s to 60s, 70s, because it wasn't, I mean, it was taped but wasn't live like it is now. And you got a bunch of other stuff too, which you actually confirm how many yards, but not like back then. But 90s was a little more better with technology, or was you can get more information than was, when Jerry Rice and a bunch of other players, who played a little bit earlier than Brian Mitchell. But anyways, most people when they hear kick returner, at least nowadays, you think of Darren Sproles. Devin Hester is one of the biggest ones because he helped the Bears get to the Super Bowl, and he held the record before. Jacoby Jacobs, which I'll talk about a little bit. Jacoby Jacobs holding like the 100 and some odd yards for a touchdown and a kick return, which, by the way, Devin Hester, if you don't know, is one of the best kick returners in the 2000 era. Brian Mitchell was one of the best in the 90s era. Devin Hester, one of the best in the 2000s. And one reason I say these two are almost like identical is because they all because Brian Mitchell still holds the record for the most punt returns yards in a career with 4,999. He was 1 yard short from 5,000 yards at punt return. And if you actually don't know this, it's actually really hard to even get 1,000 yards, 2,000 yards, and 3,000 yards in a career for punting because an average punt return is probably like anything from 2 to like maybe 10 yards. And that's small, but all these great play. I mean, you did have some great plays like in 2000. I think it was 2010 or 2011, where the Giants and Eagles were facing, and it was like tie game at 38, and Giants punt away. You got Deshaun Jackson, who helped the Eagles came back and win, or helped Michael Vick actually kind of a breakout game if you didn't know. Helped help Philadelphia win that game. And yes, he did have a few moments here and there, but if you look back at it, he wasn't really more of a kick returner, punt returner like Brian Mitchell was and Devin Hester was. Yes, those this Devin Hester was good, but when it came to like the offensive defense, because he originally came out of college as a corner, but he played wide receiver. He as a wide receiver, he wasn't too bad, but when it came to the punting and kicking game, he was so much better. He was like I said, one of the greatest in the 2000 era. Yes, you have Deshaun Jackson, you have Darren Sproles, who by the way if he played a little bit longer, he could probably break Brian Mitchell's record, but it's gonna be very hard because he's just under 3,000 yards, or he's just over 2,000. He's pretty close to getting 3,000 yards, but he needs another 1,909. He basically needs 2,000 yards to break Brian Mitchell's record. Two, so I would say that do that. Brian Mitchell's a Hall of Famer because if he has all these purpose yards, which I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. But if he does have all these purpose yards, he has like 23,000 some odd yards. Like he is like literally second behind Jerry Rice. And if you think if you're second behind Jerry Rice in all purpose yards, you had to be one of the best. And Brian Mitchell doesn't even get that much credit. I mean, yes, he did. Yes, when you think when you think running back, you think he all purpose yards and like rushing, passing, or running, whatever. That's what running back does. He was more punt returner, kick returner. He did run here and there, but it was mostly punt return, kick return. It's really hard to say that that he was the best, but I feel like he was the best kick returner, punt returner in the 90s. Like I said, you had a few people here and there in the 90s. You had, Deion Sanders, prime time, which is hard to compare with Brian Mitchell because Deion Sanders played on offense and defense, but mostly it was defensive as a corner, which is like, and this which is kind of hard to say because it's just like, he also, he was one of the best cricketers too. And like I said, Desmond Howard, who is the only player to this day with the special teams player of the being MVP of special teams in the Super Bowl, which is even harder because it's also mostly just defensive players and off. Well, it's mostly quarterbacks or whatever, but just like being special teams player and getting MVP in the NFL or at least in the Super Bowl is just an honor. One reason I should be in the Super Bowl is because if he does have over 23,000 yards in all purpose yards and like second behind Jerry Rice shows that he really is one of the good players. Yes, I can go with these stats all day, but most people are like, well, Jerry Rice helped the team win 4 Super Bowls with the 49ers. He also have to say this was Joe Montana, Steve Young. These were a bunch of great teams. But I'm talking about how Brian Mitchell went to the Washington Redskins, which at the time they weren't bad, but they needed a game changer, which I feel like Brian Mitchell was for special teams. He wasn't really more offense or defense or whatever way he helped. He was more special teams who helped. And like I said, it had to be at least if I'd say it was probably like 92, and this is before this is before Desmond Howard and nobody who just I'm talking about like 92 and whatever. Like I said, he was first in punting yards, and this was the 90s, which which is like I said, it's kind of like it's really hard to even be first in these punting yards or whatever because like I said, you average about 2 to 10 yards a game, and that's very small yardage, very small. But it's just the whole he helped that team get to the playoffs. I'm not sure how far they got because I'm a '95 kid, which I'm not even gonna get in discussion with that. That's a whole nother video. But people born '95 till now. But he helped the Redskins get to the playoffs. I feel like mostly every single year, and being first in punting yards and kickoff yards, I would say that's kind of freaking good. Yes, he didn't. Yes, he doesn't hold the record for most touchdowns in the season, but it's just the whole he was really good for his time in the '90s. Yes, but most people who watched him during the '90s all the way to 1990 all the way to 2003, which by the way that was his career, would say he wasn't the best running back. That's true. I'm talking about he should be for special teams. If kickers and punters and some returners who mostly wide receivers who and punt returners, kick returners, if punters, kickers, returners can get in the NFL, Brian Mitchell should be one of them. Go away. I would say it's very important to at least mention Brian should be in the Hall of Fame for all the purpose yards he has. It's seriously, Blaine, go away. I would say he deserves to be talked about. Believe which at the time the Bears were just awful. They couldn't even get to the Super Bowl. Yada yada yada. But helping and holding a record for a while before like I said, Jacoby Jones broke it with the San Francisco San Francisco Ravens game, which by the way Ravens won with the Brother Bowl. That's what it was. I would say Brian Mitchell. I don't know. Devin Hester should be in the Hall of Fame, but Brian Mitchell should be the first player, at least kick return wise, or kick returner, to be in the Hall of Fame. Those two, like I said, Brian Mitchell, Devin Hester, maybe Darren Sproles, if they start putting returners in the Hall of Fame. Those guys will, I would say, one of the best returners in their time. Like I said, Brian Mitchell was one of the best in the '90s. Yes, you had Deion Sanders, Desmond Howard, a bunch of other guys in the '90s. And then you have 2000s with Devin Hester, who was one of the best. Yes, he only started, I think it was 2005 or 2006 era when he started in his NFL career, and then he became the player with the most touchdowns by not being offense or defense. Not scoring an offensive defense touchdown. So having that record is actually really good. But Brian Mitchell should be a future Hall of Famer because, like I said, I looked at these stats. I even have a video I was gonna do, which I haven't had done at time. At least I had the time to do. But I would say Brian Mitchell, if he does have over 23,000 yards in all-purpose yards behind Jerry Rice, if he does have these, I would say he deserves to be at least talked about maybe a future Hall of Famer that deserves it. as much as I want to say Devin Hester should be in there first, it should be Brian Mitchell because he's the one who sort of got sort of like made their way, made his made their own divisional or however you want, made the path to make Devin Hester, because like I said, Brian Mitchell was sort of the guy for special teams before Devin Hester was, and it's very yes, Devin Hester did more stuff than Brian Mitchell. Like he took the Bears to the Super Bowl. He helped the team on offense a little bit more. And if he ever played defense, which I'm pretty sure Devin Hester did probably at the first time at the beginning of the season, but more being returner or receiver, I would say Devin Hester deserves to be more in the Hall of Fame than Brian, but I would say Brian deserves it because all the purpose yards and helping the Redskins get to the playoffs, and I think getting one Super Bowl ring. Which if and I'm pretty sure Brian Mitchell does have a ring, but that comps that like that's above the whole Devin Hester is then Devin Hester should be in the Super Bowl second or soon be in the Hall of Fame second. Sorry, it's just it, and then because it's just hard to debate it. It's hard to debate it, and it's like yes, it's like hard and not hard to debate that Brian Mitchell is a Hall of Famer, but it's just the whole. If Brian Mitchell did more than just return, he probably would have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago. But it's just all since he wasn't just a kick returner, since he was just a kick returner, punt returner, it's more difficult. Yes, he has I think less than 1,000 yards in rushing, just over 1,000 yards catching, I think. But it's just like but it's just like all the kick returns, punt returns, and some touchdowns here and there. It's it's hard to say that he should not be a Hall of Famer, but he should be at least discussed. Yes, they're all saying Devin Hester and all these other people more Devin Hester than Brian Mitchell, but it's just like I feel like Brian Mitchell made the path or like made a path for Devin Hester to become even though it's probably more like unlike prime time or Desmond Howard who deserve who got a Super Bowl ring. Sorry about that. But just the whole Brian Mitchell, if he does become a Hall of Famer, will make a path for most returners. And I would say person who's third in line for the more like good returners, punt return, whatever, great one. I would say um Denard Denard not Denard Darren Sproles. If most people don't know him, he's a very short guy. He's less than 5'10", and he can and he's one of the best punt returners. Kick returner, he's pretty good, but he's better punt returner than he is kick returner. The reason I say better punt returner is because for his small stature, it's a lot easier to maneuver and not to get around people who are taller and just. And Darren Sproles sort of has Brian Mitchell thanks too because Brian Mitchell wasn't that tall either. He was probably like 5'10", 5'9", some in that area. That's sort of how tall Darren Sproles is, 5'8", 5'9", 5'10". So it's just like Brian Mitchell sort of has a thing in there, sort of not. I know I'm going all over the place saying, these players should be in a Hall of Famer. But all comes back I feel like all comes back to Brian Mitchell coming should be a Hall of Famer because first of all, the all purpose yards. If you do have if you are 23,000, some odd yards and all purpose yards in a career and you're right behind Jerry Rice, I would say that deserves some discussion. I'm talking like it deserves a discussion that most people shouldn't even believe. Like it's like mind freaking blown. Because behind Brian Mitchell, you have Hall of Famers like Deion Sanders and Kevin Winslow Sr., and you have Lynn Swan, John Stallworth, uh, Terry Bradshaw, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, all these guys. All-purpose yards, doesn't matter, throwing, whatever. Again, if you're above those guys who are Hall of Famers or future Hall of Fame like Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, and you're only a kick returner, I would say that's some discussion. Enough discussion to where it should be. It's kind of hard to say, kind of not, because it's just I would like to, I would like to see that personally. I mean, there are offensive linemen in the Hall of Fame, which most people are like, well, why offensive linemen in there? They don't well, they do a lot of stuff. Most people are like, well, all they do is just block. All they do is just block for, they block for running backs, quarterback, wide receivers. Well, they're in the Hall of Fame because they helped their team win a playoff game, get to the Super Bowl. I know Alan Faneca, most people know, is one of the best guards in the 2000 era. And these future Hall of Famers, like the offensive linemen, and like this recently one of the old Packers who one like finally best Packers in '60s, Kramer, for the offensive lineman in the '60s for the Packers. He was getting one of the best linemen, and yes, it took him a long while. Of course, they had a bunch of people to put in, like Ray Lewis, Ray Guy, bunch of these other guys. And it's just like, all right, so, you got punters and kickers now. Now I want you to put some returners in there, because a lot of returners like Devin Hester, Brian Mitchell, I know. Hopefully, Darren Sproles go in there. These are future Hall of Famers, because it's even hard to get 1,000 yards in a career sometimes for punt returners, because like I said, you average between 2 to 10 yards once you get the ball and start moving. If you just catch the ball and the guy gets tackled right away, I don't say that's not really a return. That's just the guy who just has the ball. But just I would say these guys deserve to be future Hall of Famers. Well, Devin Hester and Brian Mitchell. Hopefully, if he does, um, Darren Sproles. Sorry. Another future Hall of Famer. I know, like I said, I'm all over the place. I probably should rename this, people who should be in Hall of Fame. But again, it's gonna go back to Brian Mitchell and a bunch of other guys. I know a future Hall of Famer should be. I just had him tip of my tongue. It, it's just all these guys who I mentioned should be future Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers. And I know there's at least few of those videos that say Devin Hester is the best returner. But I know there's one video that talks about how Brian Mitchell should be a future Hall of Famer. Or is there a discussion about him being a Hall of Famer? Most people will go, no. I'm thinking, there should be some discussion in there. Again, he wasn't known for rushing the yard, rushing, catching in the backfield like a running back normally supposed to do. But for him, how he did it, I feel like it just comes back to the whole. He was he was such a big back, like just run people over. And like I said at the beginning of the video, he didn't have the. I don't want to say the intelligence, because you have to have intelligence for his kick return to know, vision or whatever. He didn't have the right factor or whatever you want to say to talk about, or to be a number one back, because you do need vision for running back. Brian was more, you get the ball and just run forward, not whole picking the ball, stopping, and like most people say, Le'Veon Bell, who has the most patient, one of the patience running backs I've ever seen so far. Just staying, behind the offline and search for his thing and then going. Brian Mitchell, I felt like just seeing some videos, I really felt like had that. It was more he He was just so good at catching the ball and his punt return kicker and just going straight. He didn't care if someone was already, less than 3, 4 yards away from him. He's going ahead and he just got the ball and just started running, north and south. No, like stopping, trying to do, no, just got the ball and ran. Which I would say is one of the bravest things, but it was just, it's just how it was. Again, being the punt return, kicker return, most people don't know, is one of the scariest. Sorry, is one of the scariest jobs. More punt return than kick return. The reason I say that is because if most people watch it, if you watch a punt return with a good returner, bad returner, any returner, you would see it's one of the scariest jobs because you have gunners, and if you don't know what that is people that are outside, in their own little territory. You got the offensive line, or whatever, got the long side, and those people all the way outside, like near the they're near the sideline, and the corners and safeties, whoever is trying to block them to not. But these guys are running full speed at these guys, running full speed, going at least probably about 10 to 20 miles an hour to hit these guys as hard as they can. And the returner, you know, it just it's one of the dangers of NFL, which another video, another discussion. It's just the whole Brian Mitchell should be a Hall of Famer because of what he did. It's the whole purpose yards, taking the team playoffs mostly every single year, and win a Super Bowl ring. I'm pretty sure Brian Mitchell did that. Only thing difference between him and Devin Hester is the ring in the playoffs, probably. Sorry, guys, I'm just hearing it right now. But doing the stuff, like talking about how Brian Mitchell, like I said, should be a Hall of Famer. Cause I can do facts all day because I just love talking about football and everything. But again, I just feel like he should be a Hall of Famer because of what he did. And like I said, I could go to Pro Football Reference all day and just look at these stats. But and like I said, about 98% of the time, or at least 78% of the time, 78, about 97 or 98% of the time, these stats and everything. And it's not even pro. I've seen a few on basketball and baseball, but I've been mostly sticking on football. And most of these stats are like I said, 80, about 98 to 97% right. Because like I said, I did do a few background checks on how Brian Mitchell all purpose yards. Like I said, I went to NFL Network, I went to ESPN, I went to a few other websites to make sure if that was correct. I saw that, and it was not correct. So like I said, I got a whole script, I got a whole discussion how I think Brian Mitchell should be a Hall of Famer. Actually, let me see if I can pull that up on my computer. Sorry, guys, I'm just in and out right now. Okay, let's see. Brian Mitchell. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, to see you guys, like I have a whole script thing. I love to talk about. I love to talk about sports. Hey, so far I got one viewer. Yay. Um, I would say All right, so I'm looking at my thing right now. So the reason, like I said, the reason I love discussing like football and stats and a whole bunch of things is because, like I said, I like to look up a bunch of stuff. And okay, so one of the stats I said was all-purpose yards. And like I told you before, it's rushing, passing, catching, anything from any yard you can think of. So so I said that he's second. Brian Mitchell is second in all-purpose yards, and the reason I say that is because, like I said, I looked at NFL like on Pro Football Reference, and that's just a bunch of it just goes back to history and it shows you stats, it shows you a bunch of other stuff like awards, stats, and a bunch of other stuff that the players won. And I saw the all-purpose yards that Brian Mitchell has 23,330 yards, and I'm like, oh, that's actually really good. Having that much yards, that's a lot. And I'm thinking, he did, I'm thinking that's, probably a future Hall of Fame because I'm looking at all these other people, Jerry Rice and a bunch of other people. I'm like, well, why is that he not Hall of Famer? So again, I looked more deeply. He was more punt return, kick returner. But then, like I said, I'm like, this doesn't seem right because, and then I look back to go and do his stats. Like I said, I went NFL Network, ESPN, a bunch of other ones I could find information on it. And what I saw was if Brian Mitchell does have 23,300 yards, that's at least what I saw in All Pro. It was all Pro Football Reference. And then I like then I like I said I got all these stats. I like put all together from NFL.com and ESPN and a bunch of other ones. I saw that if this is correct, he has 4,000. He has 23,448 yards. And if that's true, he is only less than 200 yards away from Jerry Rice all-purpose yards. If Jerry Rice has 23,617 all-purpose yards, that's if Jerry Rice has all the yards. Again, like the Pro Football Reference is usually, not always, usually correct. Like I said, it's about 97 to 98% correct. I have seen a few here where they have a few things wrong, and I'm like, okay, that's just obviously wrong. So again, they obviously, that's just how they are. But it's more recently they got a lot better with more information. So it's just they were brand new, yeah. But going back to the whole, and then I talked about how Brian Mitchell, how Brian Mitchell led the league in punt returns. It was I was actually wrong for a year. I think I was, at least I thought I was, I don't know what I said, but it was in 1991. Brian led the league in punt return yards with 600 yards, exactly 600. And that was also the same year they went to they won the Super Bowl again. So I was correct about the difference between Devin Hester and Brian Mitchell. How the only difference is a ring, really, and the touchdowns. But pretty much everything else has been the same. For his stats as a running back, if I actually looked at this before I actually recorded this, it would have been a lot more easier, a lot shorter video. But again, live stream is just live stream. Are you kidding me? It's just awesome. Uh, okay, so like I said, Brian Mitchell was a running back, and you think running back, you think, oh, he's got over, some odd yards. Okay, so Brian Mitchell in his whole career, I don't even know how long. Does it say on here? For his 15-year career, 15 second way around was it? Brian Mitchell has 1,967 yards as a running back, which you're thinking that's bad. And that's one reason why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because he has less than 2,000 yards. What about his touchdowns? Well, his rushing touchdowns, he only has 12. And again, that's a whole nother reason why he's not considered one of the best in the Hall of Famer. It goes back to the whole position, like position thing, head coach, owner, wide receiver, running back, punt returner, punt kicker, doesn't matter who, punter, kicker, whatever. For his catching, in his catching, because he was, like I said, running back, mostly catches and run. In his catching, he has 255 catches, and you're thinking in his career that's actually pretty bad. Because in the 15-year career for a running back is usually about over 9,000 yards and whatever touchdowns or whatever. Brian Mitchell, for his receiving yards, he has over 2,336 yards, which these are just reasons why he should, he's not a Hall of Famer, which I'm thinking these are just stats on top of the whole kick returner, punt returner thing. And the whole and helping the team, get to the Super Bowl in '91 and winning the Super Bowl in '91, leading the league in 600, and punt return was 600 yards, and lasting 15 years as a kick returner, punt returner is actually really good. I don't think Devin Hester lasts that long. And actually, actually, for Brian Mitchell also threw for a few yards, and he actually threw for 168 yards as a running back, which is pretty funny. Running backs don't really or wide receiver. Well, if I see a true wide receiver, not a wide receiver, a quarterback, a true wide receiver or a true running back that throws a ball, can't throw a ball, is just I think it's kind of funny. Even though Dana Thompson has done it a few times, and I know a bunch of college players that I know Morehouse has done this that gone to wide that played wide quarterback quarterback in college, play wide receiver and pros just because they want to get to the pros somehow. Um, I would say that you know, sorry, like I said, I'm all over the place. I just really like to really talk about stuff. But as a 15-year career in the whole his whole career, having over 32,000 yards in all purpose yards, should be considered a top player. And yeah, you're probably thinking, yeah. But what about his stats as a running back? Because that was his main position. Well, what about Deion Sanders? He was posting more just for quarterback. How did he do for that? Well, he actually did pretty good. Well, then next thing you know, he started doing punt return. He started doing, he played a little bit of offense here and there, and he helped, he helped certain teams when it got to the playoffs and won Super Bowls. Yeah, well, Brian Mitchell did. Brian Mitchell did that. He ran for a few times here and there, but he was mostly a kick returner, punt returner. He helped the '91 Redskins get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl and led the league in punt return yards. Can Devin Hester probably say? Well, he probably could say that, but he could probably say he's one of the best because he's like in top 5 or top 10 in the most interceptions in the career, which does help you. But for all for all the stuff, for all like for for all this is just like really, how is he not considered a future Hall of Famer? After he's been out of the league since 2003, and it's been almost almost 15 years since he's been out of the league, and he's been in the league for 15 years. So it just I don't know what exactly they do for the commission and all those voters. I don't know how they do it. They are the smart people, but sometimes well, just as a fan, as a football fan, and just as a normal fan, because I know other fans have thought about this. Not even because I'll tell you now, I'm a huge Pittsburgh fan, and I also like the Redskins. I also like Tampa Bay. Redskins is like my second favorite team. Buccaneers are my third favorite team. And I would say it's I would say, doing all this, as an fan, I just feel like sometimes the fans or the voters for the Hall of Famers are not always smart. Yes, well, they also they get a lot of critic from football fans in general. Like I said, huge Pittsburgh fan. I think most Pittsburgh teams, or most Pittsburgh players should be in the Hall of Fame. Of course, obviously they shouldn't be because they're not all that great. That's just criticism. And that's just all the stuff that they go with. I feel bad for them, but it's just times I feel like they're just not considering other players. There there are some certain players that are coming up that most people like. Well, this took them long enough to finally put them on there. Like again, I was like I said, born '95 kid. I don't really know half the stuff before me, and I know some of the stuff in the '90s and 2000 or early 2000s. That some of these guys, that some of these people is just they're finally getting in it. Like Steve, well, it's a Bronco safety player named Steve. I can't pronounce his last name, but he's not considered a future Hall of Famer because he helped the Broncos go to back Super Bowls or at least won the Super Bowls, and he helped he made that position. And again, like I said, I know I'm all over the place, and videos should be, different players should be Hall of Famers. No, yes, I am discussing a bunch of different stuff, but again, all comes back to the whole. I feel like Brian Mitchell was more a Hall of Famer material than Devin Hester, which most people are like, well, Devin Hester is better. He took the Bears to the Super Bowl and held the record. Till Jacoby Jones broke that record, and he has the most touchdowns in the punt return, kick return era, and whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That may be true, but Devin Hester didn't really help the Bears win the Super Bowl. I mean, Brian Mitchell may have done the same thing, but he didn't exactly set a record too. But Brian Mitchell holds the most yards in punting and kick return yards. Again, doing his 15 span career, that's a lot of yards for punt and kick return. And then like I mentioned, the passing and rushing and throwing for Brian, but the kick return, punt return, most yard, having 4,999 in punt returns is actually kind of shocking, kind of freaking amazing. And looking at the like I said, the little script, I was gonna make a video of Brian Mitchell, which I probably will. Is Brian Mitchell punt return yards, on the kickoff return yards, he has just over 4,000 yards. It's 4,000. No, I'm sorry, 100. So it's 1,400. I can't. It's 14,014 yards, which is a lot for kickoff. And I'm talking, he had to constantly, like the team, like the offense, like the Redskins have to keep letting the other team score to at least get that many yards. The only person behind Brad Mitchell for kickoff returns is a guy named Alan. Let's see if I can find Alan Rossum. And most people don't know him. He is also known for being one of the best, well, one of the good kick returners, more kickoff, more kickoff returns and punt. He is second with 11,942 yards in his career. He Allen played for a bunch of different teams. He played for Pittsburgh. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's who his first team drafted. But he was mostly known for being an Atlanta Falcon, which is like, and he is one like he may be one of the Allen Rosa may be one of the best in Atlanta, but he's not one of the greatest. Like Brian, like I said, Brian Mitchell, and then Brian Mitchell or Darren Hester or Darren Sproles or Antoine Randall, a bunch of these other guys who will kick off and punt returners. And then, but it's just, I just feel like he should be considered Brian Mitchell should be considered a future Hall of Famer because of all the records he holds so far in the NFL. All right, I'm gonna end up stopping right here, and mostly because someone's coming in, most because someone's coming over, and I just want to say that I'll probably talk more about this a little bit next time. This message gets to most people because I looked it up. I just that's my opinion. If you got any opinions or whatever, or other stuff that about the NFL or Brian Mitchell or whatever, Devin Hester, Brandon Sproul, whatever, comment down below. Please like this video. Subscribe to my channel. I talk about these special Madden videos on there, which I think, or arena football, which I actually think is pretty cool. But I have a bunch of videos on there. Please check it out, and I believe that it's awesome. So like, subscribe, and hopefully I can see more people on my channel. Peace.